Gentlemen, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Simon Taylor, and welcome to episode 85 of the FinTech Insider Breakfast Show. As you can see, David is still not here today, and he won't be here all week because he's taking some well-deserved time off. I'll be hosting these shows this week in his place. In this show, we bring you the best and brightest from around FinTech and banking landscape every single weekday, straight to your homes at 8:30 British Summer Time, apart from on Wednesdays, tomorrow. When Sam Moll goes live at 3:30 British Summer Time. Both shows go live here on LinkedIn. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Janice Diner, founding partner and CEO of Horizn, and Steve Frook, who's Senior VP of Global Sales at Horizn. On today's show, we're talking about banks have adopted digital solutions, how are they changing their processes for those digital solutions, and how Horizn might be helping them maintain and accelerate the move to digital banking. Good morning, Janice. Stephen, how's it going, sir?
Good morning. It's great. Good to be here.
Steve, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning, Simon. Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you both so much for joining us at, what time is it in Toronto right now?
3:30 in the morning.
Janice, I cannot believe you're doing this. It really is an exceptional move. So thank you. I know maybe there's some people watching this that are finding it a little bit early, wiping sleep out of their eyes and having a coffee, but you guys did over and above. So thank you so much. As always, audience, do remember, get your questions in, leave them in the sidebar, and we'll be getting to those questions live for you, and we'll be asking Janice and Steve all your questions. But first up, Janice, can you tell us a little bit about you and sort of the story behind Horizn?
Yeah, so I started Horizn in 2012, but I actually grew up in the ad business. I was a well-known creative director in the ad space, and in 2012 I started the company. I had been involved in the early days of Facebook and fell in love with digital and moving things across a digital screen. But really in 2015, we got our first bank as a client, and we fell in love with helping customers in the digital space learn how to use all the digital products in the banking space. And in the last few years, all our clients are in financial services.
And then, Stephen, you must have come along and joined when banking and digital kind of, did you get the bug as well, like Janice? Did you fall in love with it?
Well, about 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet Janice and learn about Horizn. And at that time, believe it or not, we had one bank utilizing our platform and absolutely loving it. And so the challenge arose to come on and work closely with Janice, and to be able to, of course, travel the world, talk to banks in many different geographies and many different sizes, and then ultimately to be able to bring them onto our platform. And super happy to say, Simon, after 4 years, we have over 30 financial institutions utilizing our platform.
My goodness, that's quite the growth from 1 to 30, a 30x improvement. Long may that continue. But Janice, tell me the story of the product offering. Like, go back to the founding. You sort of had done something in advertising. You'd sort of come across the massive difference digital can make. What does Horizn actually do, and what insights led to you building that product and set of capabilities?
Well, we started in the actually handset manufacturer space with Motorola and Lenovo and Google globally, training retail sales teams on the floor how to do the new phone launches. And when we did banking, we obviously started helping employees understand all the digital products that were coming to market, especially mobile. But what we discovered really early on was that we were actually teaching humans, and it didn't matter whether it was an employee or a customer, was sort of the aha moment. And we realized that the end goal was to get the bank's customers understanding all the new digital products coming to market, how to use them, what were them. They were, a lot of innovation was being created that not everyone knew about. There was no way to distribute the knowledge about the new digital capabilities. So we have an employee platform and a customer direct platform. It distributes knowledge across the enterprise. So employees, frontline, it would be call center or in branch. We get integrated in all the marketing activities, basically all things digital. Right, everything the bank is producing in all corners of the bank is fair game for us.
And I guess all of that knowledge for the front line is going to make such a difference to a different customer segment. Because if your frontline is really aware of what the digital solutions can do, you can really bring on whole new generations. There's people that will adopt digital automatically, but I guess the adoption from the entire book of customers that a bank has may not have been as easy historically. So what kind of results have you seen? Steve, maybe can you speak to the kind of conversion that you see and the impact of the product?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really important is the foundation of all of our platforms is all based on analytics. So we're constantly measuring the success of our platform over and over again with our banking partners. A couple of key stats that we like to share is that on average, we're able to increase digital adoption by 25% with our banking partners. Another key stat that we like to talk about is that 20% of the time when a customer utilizes one of our digital demos and they are not actively digital, they actually become actively digital. So it's the power of being able to show people how to utilize the capabilities that the bank has launched, whether that's a simple capability or whether that's the latest PFM tool that the bank has launched. And after you show somebody how to utilize it, then all of a sudden they start to adopt it. So 20% increase when they utilize one of our demos.
The power of an on-ramp for customers. I mean, there are a lot of people that are launching digital banks at the moment, but there are a lot of customers not using digital banks that are very comfortable with the analog channels. So by giving them an on-ramp, hopefully you make their lives a little bit easier. But Janice, talk to me about how this, the pandemic has really impacted what you guys do, because I guess the shift to digital has become a necessity.
Yeah, so it was really like, obviously we all were, it seemed like overnight, right? Where all of a sudden you were home, and all the banks, shut down branches. Sometimes in the US there'd be drive-through and appointment only, depending on where you were. But immediately overnight, you had to get the folks that weren't banking digitally, right? So we had. It was very intense, very fast. We made sure that all our clients had the content they needed. So whether the customer was having problems resetting a password, uploading, a check digitally, all that stuff was done really, really fast. And banks integrated our platform into all kinds of communication channels. So, mission critical communication from senior bankers. Sometimes the CEO would include a digital demo inside the email, helping the customer feel safe. There was tremendous motion, very, very fast, to help make sure everyone could bank digitally right away. So whether a bank had all kinds of demos from us or needed new ones, we were very, very busy, and I felt very much in the front and center, making sure part of that frontline initiative to make sure everyone was ready and safe and able to bank digitally.
I mean, you were kind of in the eye of it, really, Janice, in so many ways.
It felt that way. And we were like, really heads down for the first 6 weeks, just making sure all our bank clients were safe. We got integrated on the homepage of banks almost all our banks. We'd be on the COVID response page, as many places as possible to make sure that customers could find their way and maybe not wait 3 hours at the call center, which happened to a lot of places where you couldn't get through.
Yeah, the digital tools suddenly become the only way people can do everyday life and become mission critical when the branches are shut and the call center takes 3-4 hours in some cases. And I guess with a lot of banks been announcing recently, I saw Royal Bank of Scotland, some banks in the US are looking that most of their staff are going to be remote till next year.
Yes.
That's going to probably bed in some different processes and different ways of working. I mean, Steve, what do you think that really means? Are banks looking at their strategy differently? Are they looking at loan losses? What's going to have to shift in the next sort of 3 to 6 months? And what are banks really wrestling with? What are you hearing? We lost Steve. I think we might have lost Steve briefly.
I'm back here, Simon. I apologize. I think there was a little hiccup. Must have been my side. Anyhow, it's absolutely right. When you think about banks and you think about the way that they are relooking things, the number of employees who are working from home and actually running and managing the bank all right, right? And the same thing from a Horizn standpoint, or essentially any business. The concept of having call centers and having humans be able to answer calls from their bedrooms before was just never a starter with banks before. And then now all of a sudden, in that moment of time where that had to be the answer to how calls were being answered, and they actually found out that it worked out okay. I mean, it's going to change. It's going to change the workforce forever. It's going to change banking forever, and how people go about their jobs. Absolutely.
Completely. And I think, Steve, you're so right. That sort of acceleration of existing trends seems to be something that a lot of people have observed. And then the kind of the bedding in of those over the next year, if it was just a month or even 3 months, then maybe we could have gone back to normal, as it were. But it seems like that's not realistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, a couple of stories from our customers. You mentioned, of course, the massive influx of calls coming into the call centers, and then all of a sudden you had branches almost on the fly being turned into call center hubs as well. That idea of the branch isn't open, but yet we still have employees who can come, who can social distance, and then all of a sudden answer those calls. Our platform also helped those individuals, those employees of the bank, all of a sudden do their jobs very differently and be ready to be able to answer those influx of digital calls. And of course, that's not easy. That was sort of on the fly job training for a lot of bank employees to be able to provide that service level to their customers. So amazing times.
And I think that's often the story not told, Janice, isn't it? Is the importance of the staff inside the organization in times like this, where the system may not do what the customer needs it to, but the staff are going to bend over backwards to make it happen. Do you guys have any stories or things that you've observed in the last 3 or 4 months in your client base that really spring to mind? And is it either how they've used your product or just things that have surprised you in the last 3 and 4 months?
You want me to take it, Steve?
Yeah, let me tell a couple stories, and then
Okay,
we can go back and forth. I think there's a whole bunch of them, and I think what it comes down to is the creativity that our banking partners have utilized our platforms, and really being able to move extremely fast. So a couple of stories. One from Nationwide Building Society, and the concept of being able to help that individual, that customer, that member of Nationwide Building Society, who is logging on to online banking or mobile banking for the first time. And all of a sudden being able to see that customer logging in, and then being able to show them demos of how to utilize the platform in a pre-authenticated space was super powerful, because you're taking this member, this customer, in this case with Nationwide Building Society, and you're literally showing them step by step how to go about something that they're doing for the first time. Now, what I believe is that when you take that care with your customers from a digital perspective, they're going to remember that forever, because in that time of need where you really needed to do that financial transaction, you couldn't do it the way that you did it before. Your bank actually was there to be able to help with that. So that's one story. Yeah.
People remember that sort of thing, Steve, don't they? It's a really important thing to be there. And the people often forget in the age of digital that the human element is still so important, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you start to look out as well, is that for years banks have been sort of almost harping on their customers that there's different ways to do banking. So Simon, they would send you a message and they would say, Simon, you can pay your bills from home, you can do your transfers from home, you can do, and you would get these messages. And of course, the bank would send out more and more messages, because marketing oftentimes is cheap. But the difficulty came in is that if you keep communicating to your customers in the same way and you never show them how to do it, those messages become extremely frustrating. So I understand the value proposition of using mobile banking. You've told it to me 10 times, but if somebody could just take the time and show me how to utilize it. So our digital demos, as Janice mentioned, were used really everywhere from a communication perspective with the bank, to be able to not only explain the why you should do this, or that this type of transaction is available, but then to take the customer through step by step and be able to show them how to do it as well. And I think that paid off of big dividends as well.
I'm sure it did, and I think that power of showing somebody again. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it with people who aren't as confident digitally in your own family or your own friendship circle. Sometimes they just need to be shown, and then they're completely confident and comfortable. Just that person who can give them that confidence. It doesn't matter what the device tells them; they need a person to tell them it's okay, and that empathy and human support is really powerful.
Absolutely. Another example you touched on it is of course, over the last 100+ days, call center volumes have gone, well, in Canada we like to say, a good solid hockey stick curve up, and of course wait times have increased dramatically, and that experience hasn't been good. But Horizon's been able to help out there as well, because before you called the call center, the customer was able to see answers to digital related questions. So they could click a link on the website, and they weren't getting a text-based or a PDF, God forbid, type answer. What happens is they were getting a step-by-step description on how to be able to go about the transaction that they were having a question about. Those same types of digital demos get embedded into chatbots, and then they're also available. When you're holding on the lovely hold music at the bank, they're also explaining to you that you can go to the .com site to be able to do that. And literally hundreds of thousands of calls that would have gone to the call center were literally diverted to
digital. That eventually what happens is banks and brands lose that intimacy of relationship with their customer, or can it actually be reinforcing?
Yeah, I can't. It's hard to imagine. I think that in some of the examples that clients did with us, it became both physical, human and digital, right? It's never just digital. Like one of our clients, I think Scotiabank, did a whole video series with their VP of Customer Experience on the fly, talking to customers about how to bank, but also using the demos in the background to show people how to use it, right? And I thought it was just a perfect example of the human side of digital. When you're stressed about your money or you're stressed about what you're worried about, you do need a human to help you understand what to do, and also very much so. Like it's not just about the digital basics, right? The banks are producing, some of the larger banks for sure, are producing large amounts of interesting software that is not just about basics, and customers don't know they exist, right? How do you let customers? So we've been very embedded in the marketing activity as well, right? So if you launch something like RBC, when they launched Nomi Insights, they needed to make sure the customers understood what that was and how it worked, and let them know that it was there, right? So there's a lot of integration into marketing, and integrate right into the .com as many places as possible, so that
Janice, sorry, Janice. I think you made a really interesting point that it's not just that you offer the digital, it's how you offer the digital, how you explain it, and how it manifests across everything you do. And I think there's some broad lessons there for a lot of organizations, regardless of what they're doing. And I think that's really powerful what you're saying about the human aspect of it. And speaking of the human aspect, I'm just going to remind everybody watching, do put your questions in the comments section. We will absolutely get to them. Keep asking those questions, and we'll get them to Janice and Steve. Let us know what you would like them to answer for you. So, and sorry, Janice, I didn't mean to cut across you there. But
no, it's okay.
But you make some interesting points that banks are going to have to continue this journey. And I think it's 1% finished, as we like to say, the 11FS. What do you think the outlook looks like over the next 6 months for a lot of these organizations? Has the digital shift now happened and everything's fine, or is there still a lot of work to do?
Oh, there's obviously a lot of work to do. I mean, we started hearing the comment that we've moved, 2 years and 2 months, or sometimes 3 years and 3 months. Any way you cut it, and we had already obviously seen that. You obviously see the shift where digital is moving to the center of the bank, and we don't want to roll backward. Though customers obviously will have choice. We see banks putting a ton of their effort, way more so, or more so than before, around their digital products and their digital offerings. It's sort of like the center of the in the eye of the storm, digital is in the center, and everything else works out from there. So we've seen, and we've seen people like, work really hard. The staff work long hours, everyone really rallying towards it, and we don't see it rolling back. There's no evidence. And, in the language of re-entry, which is, we all really don't know what it all means. We're in it. Are we going back to home? Are our branches staying open? All that sort of thing. We see it continuing at full force. All evidence shows that. And it doesn't really matter what country we're talking to, which part of the globe.
Janice, I think those are really good points. And I guess it's kind of built here by a question from Rob Turl. I hope I said your name right, Rob. Have you seen an improvement in trust from older generations who prefer that face-to-face relationship and worry about cybersecurity? Steve, Janice, what do you think about that, older generations?
So I think each different segment of your customer base may need a different approach when you're trying to get them over the digital divide to a certain degree. And with some of our customers, we've literally seen them come up with programs for the more mature type customers, where not only did they need to have a phone call to be able to walk them through how to utilize it, but they also needed to have a regular check-in point as well. So the idea is being able to make everybody confident enough to be able to utilize the digital capabilities that the bank has launched. And depending on different individuals, different groups, there's going to need to be a different approach taken. Sometimes it's easy enough to be able to give somebody a link and say, here's a link, take a look at it, Steve, and I'm going to take a look at it and I'm going to go on. Other people are going to need sort of a digital handhold, as Janice was saying, and a more human element to it, where literally that individual will walk them through and show them how to do that transaction, and then ensure that they stay digital and keep doing their transactions that way as well.
I really like this idea of the support wrapper and the on-ramp for people who could struggle with digital historically. I think it's super important, especially in times like this. There's a good question from Ellie Davis here, who asks the question, what's the biggest mistake a bank can make in interpreting what going digital means? And Ellie used air quotes, so I'm going to use air quotes.
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure I can answer a mistake. I mean, I think that the mistake is to not support your customers digitally and not do the digital holding of the hand. And we're very focused on, with our banks, we see banks that are really eager to make sure the transition is smooth, very eager to help everybody. So I don't see too much of that. I think sometimes some of the banks maybe didn't move fast enough, but overall, the clients we deal with are very on top of it and very eager to move, and our teams that we deal with are all the digital teams, right, that are very forward thinking inside the bank and very committed to the new world, so to speak.
Yeah, if you're dealing with those sort of stakeholders internally, they tend to be more
They're like us, right?
Yeah. But is there something where, because of the platform you guys have, you have to sort of sometimes work with the bank as a partner and maybe tell them some uncomfortable truths about why people are falling out in the digital product journey? It might be how the product is designed, and maybe there's some tips and tricks there in terms of improving that experience for different people.
I think the biggest part, Simon, that we see is that we often talk about the last mile of innovation. So you can have the absolute best interface, you can have the absolute best processes in place, you can have an intuitive product, all of these things that banks strive for and often deliver. But if you forget about the last mile of innovation, that's where oftentimes trouble comes in. That idea of making sure that this great product that you've come up with, this great feature that you've launched, making sure that customers and employees are aware of it, know how to use it, and then are confident enough to be able to use it. And what we see with product launches with our banks is that when we teach the employees 2 weeks, 3 weeks before it goes live, how it works, then all of a sudden those customer interactions that they have about this new feature, this new capability, is just so much greater. So you actually have the employees learning about it before, so then they can actually become advocates of that solution and show people how to utilize it. So I think launching it is an incredible part in making sure that you've got everyone, both customers and employees, digitally aware, fluent, and confident on how that feature or product works.
The colleague side of it is so important, isn't it? In terms of the ability to really make the last mile work, as you say, Steve. There's a good question here from Helen Patterson, who asks, "Do you see a difference in behaviour depending on the type of decision that needs to be made?" I'm guessing from a customer standpoint, and from the how much time customers have to commit to that job to do. So my guess is, going through a mortgage is or looking at removing their pension is quite different to sort of just moving some money in and out their checking account, or kind of paying a utility bill, although those can be quite stressful. So what differences in behavior do you see in the customer side, and how do banks get better at helping those customers?
You want to take that, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. So there absolutely is a big difference. So what we'll look at is we'll look at the different government loan programs that or support that different government bodies have had over the last 100 plus days. And of course, if you are in a financial bind, if you are having problems making your bill payments, or if you're a small business and you need a helping hand for a period of time, that's a very stressful time. And likely what you're going to do is to reach out to somebody physically or on the phone to be able to discuss this problem. So what we see in those cases where it's a bit more complicated or a bit more emotional for the customer in those types of examples, what we find is that human digital component really important. So all of a sudden I can call the call center, I can tell them what I would like to do, and then they can refer me to their website and literally walk through step by step the digital process for applying for that loan from the government, or a mortgage payment, or whatever the case might be. Is just being able to help people. As the complexity grows, there may need to be more of a human element component to it, but literally being able to show somebody step by step how to do it, that creates an awesome customer experience in that time of need.
Completely does. I guess, Janice, I'll throw this one to you. What comes next for Horizn? What about your organization? What are the next sort of 6 to 12 months look like for you guys at the moment?
Well, we're obviously scaling rapidly, running the business remotely, hiring remotely, hiring people we haven't met around the world. Very, very interesting. But, we see, Steve and team talking to more banks. We're closing more banks. And we're really just into helping the whole system be really comfortable with digital and make sure that we don't roll back. I know that you talk about this 1%. I've been following you guys from day one, and we're part of the solution to make sure we move that needle and certainly stay there and not roll back.
Here. All right, folks, we have come to the top of the hour, and I'm sure you've all got days to get into. So I want to thank you for joining me, Janice and Steve. And
Thank you.
Where can people find out more about you and what Horizn's getting up to?
Stevie,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can, of course, go to our website. So it's horizn.com. Horizn is spelled HORIZN.com. You can email us at info@horizn.com, or you can find Janice and myself on LinkedIn as well. So thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And that's all we have time for today. I think we'll have lots to get on with. Tomorrow, I'm actually not going to be here, but Sam will be here to kick off the US breakfast show at 3:30 British summertime. So put that in your calendars, people. It's 10:30 Eastern time if you're on the East Coast in the US. I will be back here on Thursday when I'm joined by Uma Rajar from Capital Rise. Have a great day, everybody, and see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.